Hello, YouTubes. I just thought I was going to do some tinkering with my prototype tonight, so I thought I would just stream it to have a chat with people. My concern, and the reason I don't do much streaming of my own development, is I am terrible at explaining code. I can hack at it until it does what I want, but explaining that as I do it, But, yeah, I mean, we'll see who shows up. I might do a little kind of project tour of what I'm working on, and sort of some basics of how it works. Hey, Brainoid. Hey, Gamma. Hey, Egghead. Team Gamemaker represent. Someone's going to come in at some point in this stream and go, "Why aren't you using Godot yet?" And I will say, because I don't know how to use it. And I'd rather use the thing I know how to use than the thing I don't know how to use. So this game has no aim whatsoever yet. It has no goal. There's no way you can die. It just has a completely meaningless core mechanic of jumping around in a platformer and choosing the name and size of the next room, and that's the entire game at the moment. And there's nothing else. So it's not even really a game yet, it's just a toy. But I do have some ideas, and I'm gonna give myself a couple of hours now to try and work on some of those. And the main one is just going to be making these rooms have some meaning. It's like Journey, yeah. It's like one-bit Journey. My goal is for this session is, you see these names of the rooms that come up. You can have a lair, which is like a creepy room. That's supposed to be some kind of fungus. It kind of looks like maybe it's made of meat. I don't know. We've got ruins, labs, lairs, something called a shop. But they don't really have anything in them, it just determines which blocks to put down at the moment. My goal is really to start thinking about what's going to be different about each of these rooms. And then, as you can probably tell, I've taken the drafting mechanic from Blueprints a little bit. I had this platformer I was working on already, and I didn't really know what to do with it that was special, and I thought, I wonder if you can put room drafting in a platformer. And so far, just the jumping around and then finding the doors and generating the next room actually feels quite nice. It's something quite satisfying. So I'm just going to start giving each of these rooms its own character in terms of what it generates. And from there, we'll try and work out an interesting set of interactions so that you'd have a reason to want a lab at a particular point or a grove at a particular point and stuff like that. So but yeah, the way I'm developing this is not very structured at all. I've set myself a bunch of rules about the art style, so I kind of took this from... Let me find the previous... Where's the previous one? Someone on itch, I can't remember their name, it will be here somewhere in the code, had made a like ZX Spectrum sort of Dizzy Egg type game, and I just started hacking away at that because it was the best. This was like the best platformer I could find in terms of how it felt, and I know that sounds really strange. I've broken this one anyway, but they'd made like a Dizzy the Egg adventure platformer, if any of you know Dizzy Egg games, and it just had a really good controller setup and stuff. And I had a weekend where I thought, I just want to start messing around with a little platformer because I haven't done any dev of my own in ages, and I want to learn the ropes again. And I'd been reading the Spelunky book, and that kind of made me feel all inspired. So I downloaded like 5 different templates, and the ZX Spectrum one that someone had made that I found on itch was like the best one. In terms of like how the collision was implemented, in terms of how the controllers were implemented and stuff like that. I kept finding other ones like, I don't know, yeah, I won't name the person, but I downloaded one and it was like as soon as you rearrange the level or change the size of everything, all the code broke. And this one was just way more robust. So I started from this, started hacking it, and then left it for a couple of weeks, and then started playing blueprints. And I was like, oh, I really like this room drafting stuff. I wonder if we can put room drafting in a completely different sort of game. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing here at the moment. Yeah, a Blueprintsphania. That's what we're going for. I don't know if it will work. It possibly won't, but I don't have a great deal riding on this. And the art style's been really fun to work with, because I just shout out to the person in our Discord who's working on Night of the Abattoir Man, which I'm playing tomorrow. They were making this kind of ZX Spectrum game that has this very strict rule about every object can only be one color. I've already started breaking that in my own game, but it's worked. It was a really good way to start out, because you don't get bogged down in, yeah, that's like the title screen from the game I was hacking from. You don't get too bogged down in like over designing things, because it's just, you just kind of think of the general colors of things. And then I think, let me find a picture of this. Some of you, if you got me on Blue Sky, I've decided that this is what my game design document for this game is these things, these like 90s. This was like the boy equivalent of Polly Pockets. They were like these little tiny plastic playsets with little figures in, and I just love this color scheme. Like this kind of like late 80s, early 90s cartoons just had these really gross color palettes that just immediately made you feel like you're in another world. And so that's maybe not my game design document, but my art bible for this project is these, which is why I'm just sort of kind of putting things in single colors, apart from the door where I've mixed colors. And yeah, just using loads of kind of gross pinks and purples and stuff to make it feel otherworldly, I guess. They're definitely not the actual ZX Spectrum colors anymore. I was just kind of following the general pixel size of it and stuff. CED, what's your opinion on stealth games like Thief? Is there any changes in design you would make to modernize it but keep the soul? I haven't actually played the original Thief since it came out. I love Dishonored. That's probably one of my favorite games of that sort. I really like both generations of Deus Ex games. I think that the general problem with stealth it's about an absence of something. It's about not letting a particular thing happen, right? Which is weird. It's like you spend a lot of time waiting and you're passively hiding while something passes by and stuff like that. So I always like stealth games in principle, but they need a lot of sort of parts to them to make them really rich. And I think the kind of modern Hitman games are a really good example of how to do it well. And they do it by kind of social stealth, right? In Hitman, it's not about, okay, you've got a castle with 12 guards in and no one can see you. In Hitman, it's like, everyone can see you if you approach things the right way. So yeah, I don't know. I really love stealth games, but I just think they're very hard to pull off. And you don't want to go down the route of like people automatically fail when they get caught in a stealth game, because it just kind of, I don't know, you just need something else there, don't you? Otherwise it's just like an automatic death, but a really unfun, not very dramatic one. Antonio had some, yeah, which ones did I have? I had this green, I had quite a few of these mini ones. I had this radioactive dude. I had this green little lizard. I had this massive, I had the big mountain, the like lava mountain, and spider and the big green snake. I think I had quite a lot of these. I think they stopped making toys like this because there's like a window of time where you're old enough to have a toy with small choking hazard parts like this, but you're still young enough to appreciate toys, and it's only between like the age of like 6 and 12 or something like that. And I think that's why they don't really do stuff like this anymore. But I say it as a joke that this was my game design document, but there's like a story about Todd Howard with Skyrim where apparently he had like a action figure of Conan on his desk at Bethesda, and whenever anyone said anything about game design documents, he would jokingly sort of hold it up and say, "This is the game design document," which I think is very funny. And I encourage. I mean, I think you should always, when you do creative direction for a project, you should always take things from like outside of games, because you're always going to get more interesting stuff like that. And I don't know if you've seen the. I don't think anyone's ever seen this. It's like the series kind of creative direction Bible for Stranger Things. This is such a good insight into how these things are made in the media industries, right? Look, an epic tale of sci-fi horror. And it's all formatted to look like an 80s, like, I don't know, like it could be an 80s D&D rulebook or something. And it's got kind of references of things it's based on. Like, I wouldn't do this much work right at the beginning of a project for myself, but maybe midway through, or maybe if I'm like trying to explain it to other people, then it's kind of a good time to do this sort of thing. But when I used to do pitches at commercial studios, and we were pitching to like sometimes we'd be pitching to a publisher, like, and it could just be any game, and sometimes you're pitching to a rights holder, like you want to make a game of a cartoon they have, and when you make your pitch deck, you're sort of showing that you understand the IP. So you don't just make like a standard PowerPoint. You do what they've done here, and you try and stylize it to sort of show that you understand the general like graphic design vibe of the thing, right? So I don't know, if you're pitching to try and get Nightmare on Elm Street, let's say, you make your entire pitch document look like a 80s VHS type thing. And that kind of really sells it. And it means you're starting to do the graphic design and like test out the visual identity of your show or game or whatever it is before you've even started making it, which is quite a good thing to practice, I think. Dynamic roguelike elements in Thief. Yeah. Yeah, roguelike stealth game could be done. I think the stealth games I've enjoyed have always really felt like you were going through a series of real places. But and the thing about kind of prop gen is it lends itself more to dungeons and spaceships and very generic abstract spaces. But I could see how you could make, like, if you went down the sort of Neo boomer shooter route and tried to make sort of Thief meets Tenchu with procedurally generated places, I could totally see how you could do that. But yeah, the idea with this one is really that I quite enjoy proc gen, and I quite enjoy making things with proc gen in them. But as a player, I like games that give you a little bit of creativity. And the thing that I've really enjoyed about Blueprints, I mean, the puzzles are amazing, the story's amazing, the general mood of the game is amazing. But I've always really enjoyed drafting games, and some of my favourite tabletop games are about, like, you know, which of these three things do you want? And I like platformers that aren't necessarily just about trying not to fall down holes, you know? So the first thing I did with this, when I started hacking the engine from the original Spectrum thing, was build the kind of hold an item above your head and throw it type behavior. So I've got that here. I don't have an animation for it where I hold up my hands, but I've got the basic thing of, like, I can pick an object up, I can throw it in an upwards arc, I can throw it forward, or I can kind of drop it downwards as well. And that's in Spelunky, and it's also the kind of basic object manipulation stuff from Mario. Because I thought, if I've got that, then there's a lot of things that can potentially come out of that. I can have a type of item spawn in one room, like a seed, and then I take it to another room. You know, I can have a cauldron that you throw different objects into, and then they become a potion depending on which two objects you put in. And my intention with this project is really to like not try and include any kind of combat or danger until I've worked out how to make the game fun without it. And then I might add that stuff in later, because I think I'm sort of going down the route of this being sort of quite a weird, threatening post-apocalyptic world. But I just want to make sure I've got some basic interactions to do with picking up and throwing objects that feel really fun and interesting before I even think about it as a game that has enemies and combat or anything like that in. Because I sort of know that doing that will take a long time. I know that it's something that people already find fun. I know that jumping on a guy's head or whacking them with a stick is fun. So I'm just focusing on the things that are like unknown bits of the idea first, really, which is, I guess, just generally trying to practice what I preach on the channel, which is when you're prototyping, prototype the unknowns. You know, if you know something is going to be fun, leave it till later. Prototype the stuff that you're not sure about because it's weird. You know, lead with the weird thing. So yeah, my intention with this session is just to start making each of these rooms generate some different stuff. And I don't have that stuff yet, so I'm going to do some very, very hacky object creation. I think having stuff you can throw in a cauldron is a good idea. I think maybe having keys as a resource and then having to spend a key to activate a door would be a good idea. We've got a key there, although I don't think I want that one anymore because that's from the demo project, so I'm going to take that out. I don't know if I'm going to break any references if I just delete that. And then, yeah. My code for spawning rooms is atrocious because it's all in the door object itself. And I kind of like the idea as well that kind of those pink walls you saw are some sort of fungus. We're getting into kind of Elden Ring, Caelid type territory, so I might have some stuff to do with mushrooms and growing mushrooms and maybe jumping and bouncing on mushrooms and stuff like that. So kind of Mario, but more like the Bob Hoskins movie Mario, where the Mushroom Kingdom is like a dystopian David Cronenberg ass hellscape. Hey, Gently. Thanks for joining. Yeah, this game is totally just a weird experiment at the moment. And this project is a mess because it still has everything from the dev. You know, I downloaded this as a template for a particular type of game and started hacking it, and I just have so much of even the player sprite, right? You can see where I've whacked on the knight head onto it, but you can also see there's still the like beard bit from the original Dizzy Egg character underneath. Like, I have done so little to this to change the character. So yeah, I'm just gonna look at what rooms I've got again and think about what they could be. So I'm gonna add keys as a resource, so I can't just continuously spawn rooms without consequence. Because that's, at the moment, that's the thing that makes it feel more like a toy than a game. I guess a grove is like a naturey type room, so we could have some sort of plant spawn here. I mean, that beanstalk does spawn here, but it doesn't really do anything. It's just a cosmetic background thing. Maybe we'll just try and do some stuff with treasure and keys. Some have different gravity. Oh my. Yeah, that could be really, really challenging, but I like the idea of like knocking items out of the hand. That's a really cool interaction with that basic like pick up and grab thing. I'd like the idea of having an altar as well. Like in Spelunky, there's an altar where you can sacrifice creatures or objects on it, and they turn into other things. So, I mean, I might even do that as my first thing, just as a little kind of Spelunky homage. We get some coins in here, and then basically you can sacrifice objects and they turn into coins. That feels like it would give you a nice kind of initial goal that you could do. I don't actually have a coin object. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to take this and strip all of the strip all of the code off it because I quite like the visual of that already. So the main thing I want to do with this is just make sure it's got the same object item parent. Make sure it's got all of the same behavior as the other objects so that they can... I don't want this to be picked up like above the head. I want the coins to just be like you touch them and you get them. Probably. So I'll just test it as it is. Put some in like that. Because I've made this, I put all of the behavior for the jar in this parent item. So if this is parent to the coins as well, they should have a lot of the same behavior, but I'm not sure yet. No, they don't have the gravitational stuff. Okay, I can work with that. Oh yeah, it's because they don't have the right parent. Basically playing, I guess this is a very normal feeling, but sort of like disorganization chicken with the project, where it's like, I know at some point I'm going to have to go through and refactor all of this. But at the moment, I need to go through and tidy all of this up and stuff, but, okay. So I want to make these fall until they hit a solid object most of the time. And I think that I can just kind of hack some of this out of the other code. So that should at least make them fall down. Yeah. Cool, that's good. Yeah, classic game dev. They fell down very quickly. So this is, yeah, I don't have very good collision code for my throwable objects yet. You can just sort of throw them through walls somehow. So that's another thing that I need to fix later on. But again, it's like, I don't want to refine that too soon because I don't know if the whole game is worth spending that long on that feature for. And you can kind of convince yourself, oh, well, I should do things properly because I'm learning how to do it. But that information is not going to stay in your head. Okay, I'm going to... Right, let's get this coin. I'm going to make these 12 by 12 because my grid size is 24 by 24. And maybe I'll make these spin later on, but that will do for now. And because I'm not being a purist about it being actual ZX Spectrum style, I am going to get the edges of these off, although if I was being a purist, it would be in a black box. But I'm not. Right, so when these collide with the player card, this is like going to be super hacky. Ah, the saddest function of all. The saddest function that one can write. And I don't know if I've got a good bleepy bloop for that. What have we got? Ah, sound coin. I think this came with it. That's not very coiny to me. I need a more jingly jangly. Pick up coin. Yeah, this is just a personal project, okay. If it ends up good in a month or so, I might start taking it seriously, but at the moment it's just a silly little project. Coin, coin, coin. How do you sound? That's quite nice. That's pleasant. And then I'm going to thin that out. So what I've done when I've been downloading, this is SFXer. There's a couple of different versions of this that make like 8-bit sound effects. One of the things I tend to do though is really thin the sound down so that it doesn't stick out too much. Because there's not much you can do in Gamemaker itself to edit the sound after you've imported it. You can pitch things up and down, change the volume and stuff. But you can't like filter them or anything like that you might be able to in some 3D engines. So I just don't want it to be too harsh. That's quite nice. Sounds almost more like glass. And the thing about this game is everything stylistically is super retro and 80s. And if the game turns out good, I might go back through and make it all more modern. But I'm just trying to do the choices that will make the thing as quickly as I possibly can. And then later on I might go through and I might want to make it a bit more high definition or at least have more colors in it or something. But at the moment, I just want to make stylistic decisions that let me iterate really, really quick. Okay. Where are you, coin object? There you are. Those should self-delete and play a sound when I jump into them now. There we go. Sounds like disappointment. So maybe we make a ruins, these like kind of, this is purple, right? But it's kind of meant to be the game's equivalent of grey. Like I'm trying to avoid actually using pure grey. But this is kind of our grey stone, this purple colour. So I think those would be the rooms that spawn coins, maybe. Or coins and keys. I'll start off with that and then see where we get to from that. So what I need to do is look back at the room spawning code and work out how I would scatter them throughout the room as the room is spawned. And the problem, well, it's not really a problem, but because this isn't like a proc gen for a whole level at the start of a game, I can't like spawn things and let them fall down. I kind of need them to immediately go where they go. So let's have a look. So this is where all of the room gen stuff lives. Okay, here we draw the floor. So in here somewhere is going to be where I'm creating new pieces, which are the blocks that are repeated to create the floor, and then the ceiling, and then the walls, and the doors put into the walls in specific places. So I really just need to insert my coin generation along the floor, really, I guess. So So I'm trying to give it a 1 in 8 chance to just spawn a coin above every block it spawns. I don't know if that's really going to be the right approach, because some things will get stuck, but it should do for now. So I'll just do another -12 on that, and that should position it exactly above the last block that got built. Let's see if that works. So, ruin. The RNG is not giving me the... That's a lab, not a ruin, even though they look identical. Okay. If irandom8 equals... I mean, that wasn't 1 in 8. There's something weird going on there. Unless they are spawning in the floor, and that's why I can't see them. I'll try and spawn them on the same layer as the player. Although I think that's below the level stuff. Yep, that's what K plays. Nailed it right on the head. The thing about procedural generation is you have to design it, right? Oh, because I didn't actually tell it to spawn the coin. I told it to spawn another block. That's what was going on. Yeah, procedural generation, you're always going to have to kind of... You can find ways of... there'll be templates and stuff that do it for you, but... procedural generation is a way of designing levels for your game, and you kind of need to be in control of it to some degree, because it goes with your gameplay. I can't recommend that Derek Hugh Spelunky book enough. It's so interesting. It's like there are gameplay features in that game that are in direct conversation with the ways the levels are generated, right? Like giving people bombs so they can blow up parts of the level was his way of making sure you couldn't get stuck. And designing the levels so that you sort of start high up and the end is always at the bottom was another way of making sure people couldn't get stuck. And he'd sort of just generated them so there's one clear path through, and then it didn't really matter if other things got locked off. That's like relatively simple in terms of doing procedural generation, but a way I've done it in the past, I made a mining game years and years ago, like a kind of spaceship lander game where you were blowing up rocks and going down and down into a planet. And what I did with that one was I just basically paused the game at the start and scribbled into it. Like I made an object and just kind of pushed it down into the ground and then bounced it around very, very fast. This is happening for like half a second. Bash, 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 bashing stuff out and then kind of creating gaps with noise. And yeah, I mean, what kind of procedural generation pattern you want is going to depend on like whether you're trying to generate natural looking caves or stuff that looks like kind of man-made stuff. So here you'll notice there's platforms that can generate on every other layer, which means that you occasionally get the opportunity to go back up. But it's very, very difficult to get that. It's like and again, this is something I've not spent very long on. But there's a chance you will get platforms that allow you to go back up, but they're not generated in a way that's very fair. So that's the sort of thing that I would need to tweak later on. When I know it's worth it. I won't do it yet, because that's kind of fine-tuning. Okay, so they're spawning inside. They're spawning inside the ground there. So I need to bring them up a bit higher. They weren't all spawning inside the ground, because one came in the right place. There we go. We can collect coins now. This is officially a video game. That's one of the basic things that must happen in a video game is you must be able to pick up a coin off the ground and it goes ping. I need to make it a little bit easier to do that kind of sideways jump out of one platform onto another. I need a little bit of coyote time to allow that. And I think it might just be as a matter of changing the hitbox shape for my character a little bit, because what's it like when he's jumping? Let's have a look. Maybe if I do that, it will just kind of give me... It's actually not when he's jumping I need that, is it? It's when he's walking. Maybe we need just a really wide one so I get a bit of coyote time. I don't know if that will do it. I've broken the door collision now, because it's not high up enough, I think. It's a video game. Can go into the ceiling a bit too much. But it is a lot easier to jump out and round corners, which is sort of what I wanted. I think maybe eventually I'm going to need to make my character like half the size, which wouldn't be a bad thing. I think it would maybe make the world seem more spooky and threatening. Maybe I can... Where's that jump? We do that. I think it's just going to reset the problem again. I don't want to get... I'm going to try not to get too caught up on this time, because, again, it's that thing of fine-tuning something that doesn't need it yet. I really need a way like this to get rid of that door, because those two rooms are defined now, but there's still a door. So if I put a room there, it's gonna kind of stamp over the other one. Right. There is no goal yet. I'm just trying to make interesting interactions. And then once I've got the interesting interactions, I will create a bunch of limitations, like having a hard wall around the outside of this that you can't build into. And then I will start to kind of develop goals out of whatever comes. So it's not very it's like not very textbook game design, in the sense that I'm not thinking action goal. I'm thinking set of toys around interesting mechanic, and then work out what the goal is from that afterwards. Okay, we've got coin spawning, so that works. That's good. I'm gonna make those into a... And make those into a resource and print them on the HUD, so that we can start to get some sort of resource management as we go around in this. It's going to be very, very simple to start off with, but where is that key that I don't want anymore? There we go. Don't want that. So this will be our key sprite, and I'm using a sort of turquoisey color for anything that's supposed to be metal. Sort of like that kind of thing. Let's make it. Yeah, cottager. The thing of like rooms stamping over other rooms is very much coming out of just the hacky way I coded it. But I think it could be an interesting thing to leave, so I'm leaving it for now. Because I want this to feel like a ruined world as well. I'm kind of thinking... I have this fantasy setting in my head that is like... wizards and knights and stuff. But it's also clearly post-apocalyptic, but only the player would notice that, and the player characters are like, you know, they're so unaware that they're in a... I guess it's kind of what they do in Adventure Time, spoiler alert. It's that sort of thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Slightly gross, trippy fungus everywhere, and lots of kind of spooky stuff, but sort of cute at the same time. And I just have a loose feeling of that. I don't really have any story for it apart from... I don't know, maybe we'll get sent on little quests, and each little quest will be like building a mini Metroidvania level as you go. And then if you think of the way that drafting works in Blueprints, it's like... if you don't draft very smartly, then you're going to run out of resources you need to draft, or you're going to build yourself into a corner, or in this case, because we're dealing with gravity, you're going to like build your thing in such a way that you can't get back up, that kind of thing. That's an awful key, but that will do for now. And I think these are going to be like instant pickup objects rather than like over the head carry things as well, because what I want to do is I'm going to have an inventory of these and check it every time the player tries to use a door, and if they don't have one, they can't use a door. Yeah, it's totally taking the drafting from the Blueprints, right? It's like I played that, and I you know, recently played Aramis's game Hexagod as well, and I was like, wow, like drafting is really underused in video games. Most of the time when we see it, it is in a video game that is a video game of a board game. And I've always liked those kind of mechanics. Like one of the things I like about deck builders is as you build your engine, you're not picking from the entire set of things, right? The game is going, which of these 3 cards do you want? Or which of these 4 cards do you want? And that just makes my brain very, very happy, because I'm making choices that have a big impact, but I'm not making choices from a massive set of possibilities, right? So it's taking what could be a massive set of possibilities, like if you imagine a skill tree that has, you know, you've got 1 point to spend in your skill tree, and the skill tree has like 12 directions you could spend that point in at any given time. I don't really like choices like that in games. I think, you know, there are games where it's good, but most of the time what makes my brain really happy is to have a choice of, you know, 3 or 4 options, and they're vastly different from each other. And that's what drafting usually achieves. And if you look at the game that... So Blueprints is based on games like this. This is Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which Blueprints is kind of based off of, where you're drafting like a physical location, and then those things create bonuses and stuff like that. And it's just, yeah, it's just so underexplored in video games. And I played Dawnfolk recently, and I really liked the way that was handling doing board gamey stuff with a controller input. Because the other thing I've been thinking when I'm making this is I like platformers, but I don't like when platformers get too fiddly with individual objects. And that was the reason I always bounced off of Terraria, was like, it's trying to be Minecraft from the side, but Minecraft kind of works for me much better because in a first-person game I can kind of use and manipulate individual objects very easily. Whereas, to me, like a platformer is much more of a 2D cartoon, and if the character is interacting with an object, that object better be as big as a character, you know? So like having, I mean, I might be misremembering Terraria, but I remember that being a thing I didn't like about it. Of just like, you know, a game from the side where individual objects are relatively small and difficult to interact with. I love the way this looks, you know, I love the idea of like cutaway detailed worlds, But I think when you're doing platformer controls, I just want the character just pick up a big jar above their head, smash the jar. That's the level of like interaction or complexity we're dealing with, you know? So this is really just all of those thoughts coming together into a thing that is probably not going to be good, but it's keeping me busy for a couple of weeks while I come up with an equally bad idea to replace it with. So yeah, let's get some. I'm going to just get some GUI in for the keys and coins. So I'm going to be a maniac and save all of this in the player object because there is no God and life is inherently meaningless. So coins equals, and let's start us off with some. And I have no idea of my UI scale or anything on this one. I've been completely making up as I go along, so this is going to take me a little while. So I really like Dead of Winter. That's one of my favorite. Like, I struggle a bit with co-op tabletop games because they often get the quarterbacking problem where one person just tells everyone else what to do. But Dead of Winter solves that in some interesting ways. Oh look, we've got an interface of sorts. This is definitely a video game now. Okay, so oh, doing it in the wrong order. Let's see if this works. Wrong number of arguments. Okay, and then I just need to bring the sprites over a bit. So this will be 1.2 and this will be 4.2, I reckon. And they need to go right up. So let's put them a bit further up the screen. I know there's stuff I can program very easily and there's stuff that my brain... Basically, as soon as you start involving arrays, my brain starts to melt a little bit, which is why I've never made a deck builder, even though I spend a lot of time thinking about them. Because making decks of cards using arrays is like one of those things where it's like, I know I can do it, I know I can do it, but just getting to the basic thing of, you know, putting stuff into a deck and retrieving the information for specific cards and stuff, if they've been buffed and everything, it's gonna take me a long time. So I guess the other thinking behind this project is I like making buildy strategy type games, and then whenever I sit down to make a game, I end up making a game where a little guy jumps around. Because it's fun to program. It's fun to program movement code. It's fun to program little explosions and stuff. And yeah, so just coming up with something that allows me to do both of those things at the same time is quite neat. Okay, so when we pick up a coin, we are gonna increment the coin variable. And then we're gonna have the same stuff in the keys. And the keys are going to just play a very low version of the same sound effect, and that will just help to distinguish them as well. I'll just pitch the sound effect for the coins right down when we pick up a key. And then I want to limit the door usage by having a key. So I'm not going to do any fancy feedback at this stage. I'll just make it so that if you don't have a key, then the button doesn't work. I'm not making it for the Gamemaker Viral Games Jam, no. I didn't know there was one. I should, like, I keep telling myself I should check the big list of game jams every so often and pick something from it, but... Oh yeah, I'm not spending keys, am I? So, I mean, I downplay how much I can code because I don't want people to ask me how to do things. Like, when I used to teach game design, I was doing it for like 5 years, and I always taught the introductory game. We had a module in year 1 where they learned Unity with another lecturer that was very much just focused on the technology. And then after that, they had another module with me that was like introduction to game design. And we used Gamemaker for that one. And it was like, we did code in that class, but we did code from a design perspective. So it wasn't based on like coding well. It was based on sort of working out the logic of the actions and goals of your game, and then programming them to kind of, you know, to make the gameplay work, I guess. Okay, we've got some resource management, although that time global keys was at 0 and it let me do another one, so what's going on there? But yeah, I've never really learnt a 3D engine properly before. I've done a lot of like level design in 3D, but I think it's because as soon as I need to learn C or C#, it starts hurting my brain. Everything is so in GML, everything is so obvious what it is in terms of how it's named, and okay, so this is now interesting. If I go on here and I don't have a key, it shows me the options, but I can't actually trigger them. Maybe that's good. So you can kind of see what you could get. I don't know. Maybe I just need to put the check in a little bit earlier. So, yeah, it's here. Actually, I should be putting the key check up here because this is where it goes into build mode. I mean, finite state machines, if anyone wants to help. Yeah, Rowan, it's less the naming of the variables, it's more like stuff like why do I need to type in void function at the beginning of the thing, right? The thing is, oh, that's an interesting bug. That's not what I want. Okay. Hang on, let me just focus on this for a sec. Like, in this, literally, I just say, there is a variable called this. And then the variable is set up. And the Gamemaker is so dirty, it, like, lets you make a variable. Well, it basically doesn't have typed variables, right? You make a variable container, and you can put anything in it. And it can be a string 1 minute, and a float another minute, and a instance reference another minute. And it's just so dirty that way. And, like, I understand why other languages are better for having strongly typed variables and stuff like that, but I'm just a chaos gremlin, so this feels like a native language to me, I suppose. Right, so so we didn't change the camera there. I just need to, this is putting kind of locks into something I've already built and forgotten how it works. So, right, if I go and, I can't build that yet because I don't have a key, but it's advanced to the next step. So what I'm going to do, just because I don't want to spend ages on stream doing this, I'm just going to put that back where I had it before, which is up here. So it checks for the key at the confirm stage when you actually try and build the thing. So if I use my 3 keys, right, I've got no keys now. It doesn't tell me I don't have a key. It lets me pick the thing, and then it would maybe go when you try and build it, which is not really what I want, but it at least lets me test out the kind of resource management part of this game. I quite like that I can just get out of the level that way and plummet to my death. Whee. Yeah. So there's no combat in this yet. I may add combat later on, but I'm trying to basically avoid it until I know that the other stuff is fun. Because I don't want to make a game that's just about combat. I want to make a game that's about an interesting world. So my goal really is to try and make these rooms have a purpose. And then from that, if I need monsters and combat and stuff, then I'll start to kind of work on that later on. I mean, I have a room called a lair, which indicates there's going to be some sort of creatures, but I'm not sure if I want to go down the route of fighting everything or it being a bit more of a kind of almost farming stuff, farming weird creatures for whatever resources they can give you. Have you watched Scavenger's Reign? I guess I'm thinking of that kind of world building where it's all about a strange ecosystem. I'm going to break the rules here and let myself have a object with 2 colors just so I can see what it is, because no one's going to be able to tell that's a mushroom if I don't give it 2 colors. There we go. We're going like, what if it's like post-apocalyptic, but what if it was post-apocalyptic Alice in Wonderland or Grimm's Fairy Tales, something like that. So maybe I should have like dangerous creatures, but not like loads of them. And you have to deal with them in particular ways, like throwing certain things at them or feeding them things so they don't bother you. Don't know. Don't know yet. But it's not like it's not that color choice is looking very suggestive, but that's fine. Items. I would just check they've inherited all the code that they should do. Suggestive mushrooms. Put them on the right layer as well. See, the collision code for the items when you throw them and drop them is really weird. I think a lot of that as well, though, is because I am working at the actual pixel size. Like, none of this pixel art is stretched. It is literally where you see 1 pixel, that is a pixel. So that means my collisions don't have loads to work with. Okay, so I'm gonna take these and the code that I use to spawn the coins, I'm going to make it happen in other rooms with the mushrooms. And then we're sort of on our way towards having something that feels a little bit like an ecosystem. So we're kind of doing the stuff you would do in a proc gen game, but instead of it being a thing that happens when you generate a level, it happens when you generate a single room. And then, you know, in a blueprint styley, the thing that the player has to do is kind of learn the probability of getting different things in different rooms and try and use that to their advantage. So, where is my floor spawning bit? Okay, so this is the bit that is creating the... Now we're gonna spawn stuff on the floor. Okay, and then we'll say if the current room option is the Grove, or if it's the lair, because the lair is the one where the walls are literally supposed to be made out of fungus, because I was thinking of the creepy mushroom being our sort of main antagonist, really. Like, okay, so the lair should have a higher chance of spawning. I still don't get this randomness, because this is supposed to be a 1 in 2 chance of spawning a coin on each spot. It definitely doesn't feel that common. Maybe I'm not understanding how iRandom works very well. Right. Ruin gives us coin. Oh, we need Ruin to occasionally give us... Ruin should occasionally give us a coin as well. A key, even. And then we get a mushroom from these two more kind of naturey type rooms. I mean, if there is a way to learn how to do that throw specifically to put things on top of other things, then I think I might have a game. Yay! It's quite hard to drop an object down a hole that small. It's not quite there yet with that particular maneuver, but it's not bad. One in 3 chance. That's interesting. Oh, they've run out of keys. We've got a video game. I can run out of keys, and then I can't do anything anymore. It's a video game now. Okay. So if iRandom is 4, that gives us a number 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? So that should be a 1 in 4. Ah, gotcha. It includes 0. Okay, gotcha. So anyway, the coins need to be a bit rarer, and the keys need to be much rarer. The mushrooms are kind of okay, maybe a bit rarer in the Grove. And I think I want one other type of plant, and then we can do the kind of making a potion out of two things type thing, which I think could be really neat. I'm gonna... Let's make a leaf. Some sort of leaf. Or berries, maybe? I don't know. I'm going to try and go back to my color rule about this, because not only does this look sus, it's also just feels a bit cheating. So I'm going to try and make my mushrooms look a bit more like this. So we've got, they're like part of the same thing. What's a quick way to just get that color over here? It's very good that they give you this sprite editor, but it is a pain in the ass to remember how to use it. Because you start using it and then you don't use it for ages. And then you're like, how does this work again? I just want the same color. All I want is this to be the same color as that other thing. I'm just going to have to do it by eye. I've done it in the wrong one as well. I've done it in the one called Leaf. Having a good run of it today. Okay. Keep these simple. Worry about the art later on. Just make it not look like a willy. Right. And some sort of leaf that we can generate in the grove. Maybe some berries, maybe some little purple berries or something. That'll do. I've done it again. Done it again. You probably can copy and paste the hex codes, actually. That would have been the way to do it, right? It's go in here. Yeah, it's here. This is how to do it. But why? Why is it that long-winded? Because it's Gamemaker. It's the price we pay for being able to work as a Chaos Goblin. Okay, object leaf. They under items? Yep. I'm so untrusting of the file system in this because it's a Frankenstein of a template project that I think, well, it's an item, so surely it's not going to be in items, is it? It's not going to be there. And then it is. Okay, so we're going to just add these to the same kind of spawning stuff logic. So the grove is our sort of green room. And it's going to spawn leaves and berries and stuff, I guess. I know people often make jokes about how Gamemaker games are just horrible lists of nested if statements, and yes, they are. That's just how we do it. And then I can make these maybe behave different from each other so that the leaves fall down from the top and stuff like that later on. But okay, the mushrooms look a little bit more like they belong there now. Did I forget to change one of these to a leaf? Okay, they need to be a lot rarer in the grove. Because what we want is for these to all have like relatively predictable behaviors. So it becomes like, you kind of have a rough idea of what you're getting when you spawn one of these. It's not spawning any leaves though. Yeah, although I can't remember who it was. It might have been Gamma actually in the Discord was giving me some good efficiency tips on how to make sure that if gates don't like overcheck. Oh, I forgot I gave myself a debug reset to just press space and the whole level resets. That's helpful. Okay, so the resource generation is already kind of starting to give me a particular behavioral template where it's like, okay, I want to get keys first, so I'll generate ruins to get keys. Obviously, as a player, I wouldn't know any of this. I wouldn't know what is spawning what, so we'd have to teach that. But, oh look, three keys. But it's kind of, it's giving a sense that there is potentially a game here when we've got more stuff, so that's good. I want to know why my leaves aren't spawning. Maybe it's because that interrupted the chain because it was an if instead of an else. Bear keys, yeah. Oh, the mushroom spawned and fell off. I haven't done anything to stop them spawning in the walls at the moment. The things can kind of spawn on the walls. We got back up. Don't know, guys. I think this might be a video game. Almost. But I'm not sure. I'm still not sure why the... Why are you not spawning leaves ever? So I think it stops... Well, it's not stopping here either because it's getting to the fruit. Which is strange. So if I just change that to a fruit, then we'll see if the issue is with the object or the code. My strange diagnostic approach. I think the leaf object might have something wrong with it, which is weird because it was a copy of the other object, so I don't know why anything would have happened to make it behave differently. Give me another grove. Unfortunately, these doors... The doors decide what rooms they'll have available when they spawn, so I don't have any way of forcing it to give me the room I want. Yeah, it just doesn't want to spawn leaves. What's going on with them? The Spore Fiend, yeah. You gotta give the Spore Fiend what they want. Maybe that's what... Maybe collecting loads of mushrooms and putting them in a particular place is some sort of goal you could have in a level. Right, coins are spawning, keys are spawning, mushrooms are spawning in both the grove and the lair. Just gonna make sure they're not doing a weird spawn in the floor and hide yourself thing. That's too many mushrooms for the grove, so something is going on there. You know when something just takes too long to diagnose, so you just think, well, let's just rewrite it. So coins and keys work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this whole section. And I'm going to do an if for the room first. So we've got ruin, grove, and lair. And I'm just going to do them nested like this. And hopefully we'll fix the problem that way. And the ruin is going to be same as the lab, because we've got labs at the moment, which just look like ruins, but we'll have different stuff inside them eventually. And if we go, if I rand coins, I don't know, 8. I think I can single line this, which is very ugly, but it's going to make this easier to read. This is going to make this slightly tidier just by doing it as a variable. Think that makes sense? So the grove should occasionally make fruit and should more occasionally make leaves. And the lair should make maybe mushrooms and coins. Let's just see if that works. broken it already. Because I made up a function that doesn't exist. Classic. It's because I tried to use irand instead of irandom, which isn't a thing. It's almost like the color coding in this exists for a reason. And is there for a reason and isn't just for pretty. One thing I am learning tonight is that I can talk and code at the same time. Probably not harder stuff, but, you know, haven't got completely stuck yet. Variable object not set before reading it. Okay. I've set variable object there. Ah, okay. Can I try and spawn no one? Will that work if it's not set to anything? Let's see. No. Okay. My attempt to make my code slightly tidier is making things take a bit longer, but it is better than the first time I wrote it. It just needs to work. Still not spawning leaves. What is going on there? Maybe I've just made things too rare, I guess. Okay, we'll make keys a lot more common. Yeah, no one is weird. I mean, it just means empty instance reference, right? Okay, the grove is spawning mushrooms. What is happening? Because the grove can only spawn fruits or leaves. What is going on with this? No, that's not what's happening. I thought maybe I'd made a Frankenstein sprite where it was appearing as one thing and then changing very quickly, but that doesn't seem to be what it is. The grove isn't supposed to spawn mushrooms. What is going on? What are you doing? You know, like most coding problems, it's like, oh, this stupid computer is doing exactly what I said. But I can't find out where I told it to do this. I'm totally befuddled. Oh, look at all those lovely keys. Yeah, that's a good idea. Print messages everywhere. Yeah, you're right. Maybe, okay, I can take the parent object item and have it draw text above itself. Don't know if that's going to work. I'll try it. Oh, I haven't rounded that off properly. See if that works. Got a whole lot of undefined. The joys of debug text when you're working in very tiny resolution. Okay, these don't have it, and that's because they're technically a different item class from these. But yeah, everything that's spawning is correct. So what's happening is the room that is called the Grove is acting like it's something else. So I'm just going to jump back through the code and have a look at some other things to try and work out what's going on there. This script is horrendous. But it doesn't matter because no one else ever has to use it. Okay, the Grove can occasionally spawn a beanstalk, which is just a decorative thing. And it definitely knows it's that kind of building because otherwise it wouldn't be setting the sprite for the blocks to soil, because the blocks are all the same object. They just have their sprite changed depending on which room is being built. So I don't have to have loads and loads of different objects to say, oh, this is a rock block, this is a soil block, because I don't really care about that. So it's definitely making the room based on that yellow text that says it's a grove. So this check should be working. And maybe I'll just take this else out. Although we know that it's also triggering because the fruits are generating. But it is occasionally generating mushrooms in the grove, even though there's no way it should be able to do that. This is very, very strange. Maybe if I set the default object to be a coin. No, that's not going to help. Odd. Odd. This is definitely a sleep on it type problem because I can't get my head around what it's. It just the game wants things to be mushrooms that aren't mushrooms. I think that's all it is. So there could be, in this lair, there could be a really good monster in here that's just like a big chunk of the floor, and you have to feed it the mushrooms. It's just like a big mouth, like a, and you throw stuff in its mouth. I think that could be quite fun. And then you could use these platforms to like get above it and try and do that. You know, like, because I've got a couple of different directional throws with these controls, so I can jump and then drop things, and they kind of maintain a little bit of the forward momentum. So dropping things to feed a thing would be fun. dinosaur mushrooms. And make my groves more common while I'm testing them. I should have done that a while back. So, I'm going to take shops out of the rotation because they don't do anything yet. I was initially just thinking of like the color coding for them so that I would have a rough idea of what the categories were and what colors would come up in the HUD when you spawn different things. Okay, we're spawning fruit. We're still spawning a bunch of mushrooms in the grove. But we're spawning fruit, so that is getting through okay. What if I do that? This game just really doesn't want there to be leaves. Right, I'm going to make that... Can I get the name of the thing that I... what am I trying to say? Do these have a... No, they don't have any sort of name. What's the easiest way to do this? It should just be printing the name of the object, I guess. Can't remember how to do that. Will that do it? Yeah, I'm just gonna, I'll place some in the levels and see if that fixes it. That's so weird. That is so weird. It's like it needed to have one in the level to initialize the object as being a thing that could exist and then it could spawn it. So if I delete all of these, what happens then? If I just delete all of these pre-existing... What layer are they even on? Excuse me, coins. What layer are you on? I just want to know what layer you're on. Ah. So coins can spawn. We had some stuff spawn and fall down then as well. And now it works. I think it was, that must have been some kind of weird cache thing, because I have no idea what happened there. But we can turn we'll stop working out how to do the debug text now, because the debug, we don't need the debug text. And one of the things I can do with these objects as well, though, is I can make them have their own kind of gravity. So I probably won't do it now because it's kind of flavor for later on. But when we spawn the grove, the leaves can spawn further up and sort of sway and fall down like nicely. And then when you drop them, they can do the same thing, right? So if we had leaves or feathers, they sort of do a little wee down like that. That would be really satisfying. But yeah, I don't know why that was. We changed literally no code between the last two things. It just wasn't loading the object into its kind of library of stuff that existed in the project, I guess, until we'd placed it in the room, which I've never seen before. I think it might be something to do with it being a kind of child object of something else, but oh well. I think some of these objects as well, like I'd like to kind of follow some of the same principles they have in Minecraft, where they basically don't introduce a new sort of food or mob or anything if it's just going to be a reskin of something else. So for example, these berries, how do we make them behave differently? Well, maybe they just splat immediately as soon as they hit something, right? And that's kind of their special behavior, and then the leaves kind of float and stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff I could spend ages and ages with, but as someone already pointed out, this game doesn't have a goal yet. So I'm going to start kind of working towards short-term goals of like, oh, get this thing from this room and put it in this place. And then from there, I can build up the long-term goals, and then I can go back and make all of these nice little things that feel nice, I guess. Nice little things that feel nice is actually a very technical game design term. What's the time? I'm going to spend about half an hour more on this tonight, and then come back another day. I've been working on this in like bursts of an hour, and I found that actually quite a nice way to work, because you just get done what you get done in that time. Like one of the things, I can't remember who told me this, but when you're practicing something, whether it's games or anything else, if you always quit while you're ahead, then you don't get like worried about going back to it. So if you set yourself like time limits of like, I'm just going to work on this for an hour, then you tend to step away from it before you get stuck. Whereas if you kind of grind on something till 1 o'clock in the morning, then you'll kind of leave the project usually at the point where you get exhausted with it and you're like, you can't solve the problem. And then that kind of sort of dictates your mental state coming back to it. Whereas if you always kind of end things when you're in the middle of doing something good, then you're more likely to look forward to coming back to it, if that makes sense. I don't know. I know people kind of struggle with those sorts of things at different amounts. Right, we're going to make the lair into a lair. I think I want this world to start feeling like it has some teeth to it. So we'll make the lair into a lair now. And maybe it won't be the only type of lair that can exist, but we can at least start, you know, this can start to feel like a world with some interesting stuff going on in it. So what I want is, I want to make a big mouth on the ground. Lair monster. And I'm just basing it on the mushroom for now, because I want to kind of size it in relation to the mushroom. So the width, like 240 would be really wide. So I'll do 120, because that's, okay, that kind of thing. And I'll just plop one down in the world to kind of see how big that looks in a minute. But
And then this will just be like a big mouthy thing sticking up out of the ground that goes nom 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 and eats things. And I'm going to just give it 2 animation frames and then change the speed of them based on what it's doing. And if I draw it a bit unevenly, it doesn't matter because I might occasionally flip the x-axis so that I get 4 frames out of 4 frames of animation out of 2. So I'll do this will be our big open mouth. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to redraw those teeth in, I think. Why are you not playing? Ah, there we go. Terrifying. So this is going to be a totally new type of object. Object layer monster. And to start off with, I'm just going to make it so that you just always get one in the middle of a layer. And then the idea is objects hit it, its animation changes in some way to indicate it's eating. And then the object gets deleted, and then we can feed it. Feed me, Seymour. So I need to factor this into my room spawning code, and the refactor I did on this has made it way easier. Although, yeah, if the room is a lair, and if can't remember how I did the math before, so I'm going to have to wing this a little bit. If xmod equals floor pieces divided by 2, I think that would be it, actually. See if it works. Don't want groves. It's not there. If it's going to do the same thing again, I'm going to go mad. Might be the thing that finally stops me using Gamemaker. I'm going to start myself off with more keys as well, because I'm glad we've got that feature in, but it's making debugging difficult. So I think really the problem is the code I'm trying to use is designed for doing block by block stuff. And I don't really want to do that here. I just want to go, if it's a layer, stick one of these in the middle. So, because this is happening, this is happening over and over again based on drawing the floor. So that's why it's all in this kind of repeat thing. So actually, I'll put it up here. And then we'll have a bit here that says, if room types have a special central object, do that here. Bar center piece. I don't know how to spell. And then I know I had some temporary variables that were okay. Yeah, these are saving like the corners of the square I'm printing the room into, so I can use these now. So if centerpiece is not equal to no one, then make a centerpiece, and this means that I can then go. You know, I can put anything in the middle of the room based on what type of room it is. And that's kind of separate from spawning all the little pick-upable objects, right? So we can have a lair monster appear in the lair. We can have like altars or lab tables appear depending on what room it is, and it will just all use this same piece of code. So that's probably the better way of doing it. I want to do that based on layer. And then the Y is going to be, basically I want the average of these two things. Hopefully that'll do it. And the Y should be Y2 take away the thickness of the floor, which is 24, because that's how big my blocks are. Hopefully that'll do it. And then that sets us up to be able to easily put objects in the center of the room, whether it's like a cauldron or a monster or whatever. There we go. Right. He is appearing in the floor. Let me just check on the sprite. He's only 16 high. That's strange. I put the registration point on the bottom there. And I'm going to make him taller, which is going to warp the graphic a bit, but that's fine. And then, yeah, let's see what that does. Needs to come down a few more pixels, but maybe it needs some of these wiggly, wormy bits in it to make it feel more like it's part of the room, but that's kind of getting there. Right, spawn code. These doors are doing a lot of work. 80% of the code of the game is nestled into these doors. It's quite alarming. It's just all in this one step event for the door when they're opened. Right. Hey, thanks for joining us. I feel like this has had some decent progress on it in this session. It feels a lot less abstract, at least.
Right, that's a bad situation because I'm going to get eaten if I go near the middle of it. So maybe it needs to be a bit less wide.
It also looks like it's spawning slightly off-center, which I can't be bothered to fix properly, so I'm just going to do a hacky thing with it at the moment. Do that. 96 by 24 feels too high. So 18. It's more of a game. Turning a game-like object in gradually more and more into a game. Uh-oh, he's eating the coins. See, jumping over it feels good. Throwing stuff into it feels like, yeah, that feels like it could be a thing that you do in a video game, you know? That's my test, really. Is like, does this feel like stuff that happens in a video game? If it does, you're probably making a video game. That's it. That's what 10 years of industry and PhD gets you. That's the level of insight. Let's go back to after someone had the very clever idea of copying the hex code, because I can't copy color from one sprite to another, which is quite frankly ridiculous, but that is at least a workaround that will do us for now. So if I open this color up, paste the hex code in there, right, there we go. It's a little bit bolder, isn't it? And then I'll do the same with the mushrooms as well, because I want those to all feel like they come from this same biome, I guess, or same organism even. That mouth is part of that room, right? So yeah, I was going to do some little iggly squigglies just to make it feel part of the room. I'm still sticking to the, you know, one color and black per object thing. But just to give that one a bit more variation as well, I'm going to give it an alarm. Anim speed equals 30. Right, I'm going to give it an alarm that keeps going off, which is going to flip its image scale. So that should make it look like it has 4 frames of animation when it only has 3.
That's feeling quite gruesome now for something that is this low fidelity. And it needs to go.
It's gross. Disgusting. What do I have for a sound effect for that? I think I've got one. I've got some kind of 3D sound thing here that I've never really used, but I don't really know how you use any of the directional sound in this. I've never really played around with it that much. I would normally just manually look at how far away they are from the player character. Maybe I need to do that. So you can see I already played around with some mechanics before I even started implementing this room drafting stuff, because there's sound effects from the old build. Then the idea is, if it eats something, that's not a very chompy sound. When it eats something, I'll speed that animation up, and then it will go. Arr. I've been making this for... That's a disgusting sound. I have been... So the stuff that is really making the game what it is, like this room building stuff, I started in the last week, I think, like about a week ago. And then some of the core platformer mechanics came from a template I downloaded, but the kind of modifications I've made to that are probably about a month old. I would say if you added it up in hours, I've probably... I don't know. I don't feel like I've spent ages on this if I were going to think about it in terms of total hours. That's a really gross sound, but I quite like it. So we're gonna check the distance to I think I've got a sort of thud sound that I can use for the chomping as well. Maybe it's rumble. Play them together. That's kind of disgusting. I like it. Okay, let's try and make that volume dependent on the distance. So, it does need to burp, yeah. Like, if you could eventually get to a point where you could, like, knock creatures into it and he, like, eats them and then burps and, like, bones fly out, that would be so cool! You know when you write a calculation and you think, I know that this is a calculation that shouldn't be happening every frame of a game multiple times, but I'll worry about that later. Okay, so I think actually the way I do this is start that at 10, and then if volume is greater than 10, volume equals 1. Something like that. I'm sure there is a better way of doing this. I should be using a clamp function really, but... You know when you're tired and you're like, I know the method I should use, but I know I'm going to have to work out how to type it out again. Pretty good sound though. And then, right, if we're going to make this so it can eat stuff now, and we're going to say base speed equals 20. And every time the alarm goes off and it chomps, it's going to try and set the animation speed back to the base speed, right? But every time it eats something, the animation speed is going to speed up. So we're going to use alert. And then to test this, I'm just going to make it so that when I walk into it, it tries to eat me. It can't really do anything. But that will be my initial test, and then I'll start making it able to eat objects. So when it touches the player, the animation speed is going to go to like 400% what it would normally be. Trippy is exactly what I was going for. Right, okay, so when I step on it, it should start doing the eating behavior I want it to do when I throw objects into it. Oh yeah, it doesn't speed up the... Okay, so... I haven't changed the animation speed. So the basic image speed of it is... I can maybe match these up. It's 3 there. Okay, so the initial image speed is 3, and when it touches the player, it goes down to like 0.5. I don't know if that will work. And then I'll do another lerp with these. I love lerps. I love a lerp. Such a cheap way to make things feel squishy and organic in a game, because they give you sort of movement or behavioral curves rather than straight lines. Okay, that's very fast. It's kind of doing the opposite of what I wanted. Oh yeah, because image speed needs to. So this, I want this to triple, so I'll do that. I'll put it up to 12 when we walk onto it. That should work. Nom nom nom. There is a dog. If any of you are on Instagram, there's a dog called Bean. That's a really cute dog on Instagram. But when she asks her owners for dinner, she says nom nom.
And she says nom nom in like a demon voice. She goes nom nom nom. Like that. And it's like the cutest looking dog. It shouldn't have a demon voice like that, but it does. Okay. Hungry boy. So, the starting speed is too fast. And yeah, let's make it like that. And the lerp should be faster so it gets back to its original thing quicker. Right, give me a nom nom monster, please. Thank you. I really like that combination of the two sound effects. The squeak does give it kind of an alien fungus vibe, and then the thump just makes it feel powerful, I guess. Maybe the rumble could be a bit louder. They've both got their own random range on the pitch, so when they're playing over each other, they feel sort of... Well, they're not identical every time they play, and they're not pitching up and down at the same rate as each other. Okay, so... I'm not, like I said, I'm not actually doing any real peril on this yet. That's going to come later on. But we're going to make it so that if I feed this certain things, it's going to have a response. So the basic thing it can do is munch the object and destroy it, right? So we'll get the, impression that this thing is eating. Maybe I'll even shake it up and down when it eats. So oh no, I know an easier way to do that, I think. Oh, I'll do it like that. Just want it to sort of bounce up and down a bit when it's chewing a food. Doesn't want to give me a... Oh, to be fair,
I've forgotten again that I can change the spawn rates of things. So, keep forgetting that I'm literally designing the game and I can change the rate of anything. Oh. Right, that happened because the thing was being carried by me. And I haven't catered to that. So the lair monster needs to not be able to... if other dot held not equal to true. Jordan said, I feel like the music industry is doomed and music has been devalued. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. And games is maybe a bit like that. This is what that... There were loads of people kicking off about this article last week that talked about how, you know, games has been deprofessionalized, and they were taking it as being like insulting to indie game developers, and it's like, no, it's not what profession means. Like, when people say something is becoming deprofessionalized, they're not complaining about a lack of professionals, right? They're saying that we can't treat it as a reliable job with like healthcare and a HR department and stuff anymore. That's what I mean when I talk about something being professionalized or not. You know, something where you get pension, all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think you just need to like have skills, apply them to things you enjoy doing, and then occasionally look for opportunities to get paid for them. And what those opportunities are is going to vary year to year or decade to decade, but you just have to be flexible to some degree. And, you know, I guess, you know, a lot of the stuff on my CV, there's a direct relationship between how much I've been paid to do something and how much I enjoyed it and had creative control over it, right? The best paid job I've had making games, I was making, I don't know, 5 or 6 times as much as I am now doing YouTube and doing freelance work. I'm just scraping by at the moment. But the best year for me financially was working at a free-to-play company, and it was just really boring. I didn't really... I think I worked there for a year, and if I looked at the game at the end of that time, I couldn't really see anything in the game that I really had any great deal of power over, or that I could kind of say, yeah, I'm proud I did that thing, you know? And then the job I was doing before that was almost the exact opposite. You know, I had my fingers in every pie, loads of creative control, but I was earning like half as much, you know? So the amount of money available to do a thing, I mean, you know, work is fundamentally something you do because someone else wants you to do it, right? And finding pay to do something that you want to do is really, really hard, and it's kind of the dream that lots of people are chasing. But if you think of it in those sorts of terms, you know, work is something you do for someone else, and they want you to do it, and they're willing to pay you to do it. Then, you know, making an indie game of a certain quality is work, but then you have to not take any shortcuts. You have to really take it seriously. You know, you have to approach it with that mindset of like, okay, I'm making a game and it's like this other game. How am I going to make sure it's at least as good as that other game that people are going to compare it to, you know? And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just sort of cross their fingers and hope people will give them sympathy and buy their game even though it's not really as good as the things it's similar to. That's why I always tell people to make weird stuff, because no one can compete with you on your weirdness. Oh, there we go. He munched the mushroom. Let me just tweak that a little bit. That was neat, the way it's kind of sped up when I fed it. I'm not spawning enough mushrooms to feed it at the moment. I'm going to delete that one at the start because it's annoying me in terms of the sound effects and stuff. So let me just get rid of that first one. And this is look, this generation I would be thinking, oh yeah, I think I've, maybe made a bit of a mistake here. Because I can't get past that now. It's quite disturbing. I feel... You know that Spy Kids quote where Steve Buscemi says, do you think God stays in heaven because he's frightened of what he made? I feel like that about this thing. Don't want to build any more layers if that's what they're like. Yeah, have you never... Oh, where is that Spy Quiz? We need it. It's so good. I'll find it. 1 second. This is important. This is important cultural stuff.
Why do they despise me so? I created them. Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created? Here on Earth? Stop looking at me like that. I'm no loon.
What I'm still trying to...
The thing that's wild about Spy Kids, right, is that I mean, there's quite a few wild things about Spy Kids. But you imagine that you're Robert Rodriguez, right? And you've made all of these very adult action movies, and then you're just like, I'm gonna make a kids movie, but it's gonna basically be in the same extended universe. And like Danny Trejo, so Antonio Banderas is the dad in Spy Kids, right? And Danny Trejo, I think, is his brother, but he's Machete from the film Machete. It's the same character, and he's in Spy Kids, which is a children's movie. As in this movie, this like grindhouse movie. It's the same character. So yeah, people ask, is Machete a spin-off of Spy Kids? Rodriguez has stated that the two film series take place as separate narrative universes and follow alternative versions. Boo! I want to think that I want to know whether Spy Kids happens in the extended Machete universe or whether Machete happens in the extended Spy Kids universe. That's the real question. Right, Lair Monster. I'm gonna make a couple of tweets to you, and then I'm gonna be off for the day, I think. So, I'm also going to make the monster's hitbox a bit smaller. because at the moment when you throw food into the side of it, it kind of still registers, and I don't think that feels great. So we're going to make it more like this. So when the mouth is open, it kind of feels right. I think you can even make a hitbox different for per frame? Is that a thing you can do? No. Okay. I thought that might have been a thing. So when I throw mushrooms in its mouth, they're not going to delete until they hit this bottom bit, and that will look kind of sell the illusion a little bit better, I guess. Actually, let's just, so I can start getting the dynamics of the different parts of this game together. I'm going to make it so that the mushrooms spawn a lot more in the forest, in the grove, and then we can kind of take them from one room and do something with them in another room. So we're starting to get, it's not much, but we're starting to get some video gamey reasons for why you might spawn particular types of room. We don't really know why you want to feed that monster yet, but I quite like the idea of having a game monster that isn't really there for you to fight. It's like you either avoid it and don't jump into its mouth because it will eat you, or you feed it and get rewarded somehow. And the duality of the fungus, the Chungus fungus monster. Yeah, I like the idea that the monster will like eat food and then it doesn't like it and it kind of goes, bleh. That would be really good. You could use it to launch certain things because it spits them like directly up in the air, right? So you throw something you don't want in its mouth and that's a way of launching it higher up into the level somehow. Oh. Excuse me. Can I bounce it off the wall? Yeah, that's a bit better. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I can now. And maybe if we want this like whole room to feel like an organism, right? Which is the kind of thing I'm going for. Then maybe there could be other sorts of things that spawn from the roof or from the sides, like sort of tentacle type things. That could be quite fun. You could have like a way of climbing up that involves jumping on these tentacles that retract out of the wall, or like temporary platforms that look like wiggly tentacles. Just anything to give each of these little biomes its own feel. Yeah, maybe it rewards you with a key every so often. You feed it and it spits the key out. That'd be good. Yeah, maybe. Okay. That's a really good shout, Gamma, actually. Like, because at the moment, every room has these same man-made doors, right? But maybe the lair has, like, flesh doors, gross flesh doors. And the monster is like attached to them, so you feed it and then it opens the doors after you've fed it. And that means if you kind of fall down and get stuck with it and you haven't taken any food, then you basically have to jump in the mouth and say bye to your run. That's really neat. I like the idea of that. So what I would need to do for that logic-wise is when I spawn the room, any doors that are spawned would need to have their graphics changed to be... or maybe they just don't appear at all. They're just like part of the wall, and then when you feed it, these kind of doors appear. And then they operate like normal doors, but you don't need a key for them. Because you've made the monster happy. It just kind of lets you out. Yeah, exactly. The classic sphincter. Like, this was my favourite thing in Baldur's... Well, not my favourite thing in Baldur's Gate 3, but one of my favourite things in Baldur's Gate 3 is the first dungeon where you get to move around. The first area where you get to move a character is on the Mind Flayer's ship. And they have sphincter doors there. And it means that the first door you interact with in the game is called a sphincter. And it has like a little opening door icon on it when you go to click on it. But it's like applied to something that's not a door. It's so strange. They really kind of throw you in the deep end with that one. So in this situation, when this room spawned, that would be a sphincter door now. And I think maybe the mushrooms should be the things it doesn't like to eat, right? Because they're coming from it, they're part of it. So if I feed it that, it should spit them out. But then if I feed it other things like creatures or berries or something, then it will be happy. I don't know. What happens if I do that? He's still up there. Occasionally a new room kind of deletes the floor of the previous room, or the kind of bit above it. So I would need to have a way of handling that for these guys. But maybe they can just generate that kind of fungal flooring underneath themselves, even when there's no blocks there. And they can kind of just gradually re-lairify the area they're in. It's quite Zerg. It's quite kind of StarCraft Zerg feel. Maybe it makes a new block of lair each time you feed it. Quite a lot of options. It's good. So what I'll do is I probably won't do any more dev on this for about a week. And I'll just think about it. And then the next time I come to it, I'll go, okay, we've got the bare bones of a interesting monster that makes the world feel interesting. It doesn't work fantastically, but I know what sort of interactions it could have. And then I could go, okay, what can we do in one of these technological rooms, like the one called a lab or the one called a ruin? What can we do to make that have its own thing? And I would just gradually build up this kind of palette of mechanics and then start tying them together, and then start to worry about the kind of polish of individual things. Like, at the moment, I can do stupid stuff like make him float, and that's obviously something I know that needs to be fixed, but not this early, because I don't have a game yet. But definitely throwing up lots of ideas as we go along. I kind of want these blocks to speed up their animation when you walk on them as well. That would be slightly unnerving. I'm going to do that now. Hang on. That'll be my last thing I do before I log off, is make the fungus blocks do something horrible. So what are they called? They are just called object solid, I think. Yeah, it's this one. So when they touch the player, What's the animation speed of those normally? Um, I'm not sure if the player character actually collides with them directly, but let's see if it works. The XP thing in chat, I don't actually know how it works. I know I've got I've got an explainer for it. I'll look it up in a minute. Yeah, give me a second and I'll look it up. This isn't a very efficient way of doing this. Ah. There you go. They wiggle about more when you're closer to them. That's unnerving. Yeah, the leaderboard stuff only came in very recently. definitely needs like a decent impact sound for when an object goes in there. Because at the moment you can't really tell that it's happening. You get like the after thing of it chomping faster, but that's not really going to be enough to explain what's going on. The coin, yeah, it definitely needs to eventually kind of spit out helpful objects. Just not sure what yet. This is maybe stuff that could interact with the draft as well, so that when you go to whenever you make a new room, the chance of it being a particular thing could be impacted by stuff you do in the game. So like the more I feed these guys, maybe the more it spreads, and then I'm more likely to open a door and it only opens to more layers. You know, that kind of stuff could be fun to play around with. What happened there? There was a weird little skip up there. Right. Let's see how these new community features work. I'm just getting the laws of scroll, the scroll of laws up. See what it says. Community. No, that's not it. Dashboard. Nope. It will tell me somewhere. I definitely saw there was something about it on here. The back end of YouTube just has too much different stuff in it. YouTube community leaderboards. Ranks you based on your engagement during live streams, encouraging interaction, recognizing top fans. Highlights the most active viewers. I think people can see that that's what's happening anyway. Yeah, it's an experimental feature, so not every channel has it yet. I'm not sure where the explainer was that I saw before. So yeah, I don't have any more information on the leaderboards, but right now, because I can't find it. Maybe next time I work on this, I should do a challenge to just find a good sound effect on here and then build an entire feature around it. What's that? That's like that's a heavy laser. The Stranger Things Bible. Oh, I was showing people earlier. This is like the pitch document for the early ideas of Stranger Things. So it's not called Stranger Things.
But it is like it is the document that led to it. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, this is the URL. I was kind of showing it to people to say, like, you know, this is. It's not really the equivalent of a game design document. It's the equivalent of a pitch, right? When you're pitching to a publisher. And the thing I really love about this is they made it look like it's from the time period. You know? Yeah, it's a really cool document. And I just find this kind of thing quite inspiring. Of like, just gives you the vibe of the series without needing to film it, right? And it's doing some of that through the graphic design. I think that's really neat. Used to do this all the time with game pitches. The first studio I worked at, I would say, I worked on like 3 games while I was there, over the course of about 2.5 years. And we sent out pitches for new games pretty much every month. And sometimes those pitches were a single page, like a one sketch by our artist in black and white to give the idea and a top level description of the game idea. And then maybe that would get to like a 4-slide pitch deck. And then there were ones that were kind of they'd almost bought the idea, and it was like at the point where we were kind of meeting them face to face and stuff. And then we'd go from something that was halfway between a pitch deck and a game design document, and it would be like 20 slides explaining the game's features in more depth. And we kind of used to do this as well. We would try and style the document so it evoked the style of the game, like the graphic design that we intended to use for the UI and stuff like that. So, one of the things that we got quite far with was an espionage based game. So all of the pitch document, I guess if any of you ever get a chance to pitch to publishers, the reason I'm telling you this is that, like, in the creative industries, when you make a pitch or a document or something, it doesn't have to look super official, right? It should still look good. It should look smooth in whatever way. But you can do the kind of stuff that is happening here with this Stranger Things document of like, okay, it's an espionage video game, so we're going to make the design document or the pitch look like some classified document, right? As long as it doesn't hurt the legibility of it or the readability. Or, yeah, in this case, it's like we're making a thing based on all of these 80s like horror and mystery things, so we'll make it look like, I mean, it kind of looks like it could be an 80s tabletop game manual or something. It's not super clear, but it does really evoke the tone and the age that it's set in. So you can do a lot of genre stuff with graphic design like that, and it's quite a fun thing to do when you're working on pictures and stuff like that. So that's me done for the day. I think I've been on a bit longer than I intended to do, and I feel like I've made some decent progress with this. It's not necessarily a way of designing that I'm full on like, this is how you should build a game, but I think the experiments with the room drafting are interesting, and now the next stage is just making the rooms feel different from each other and then working out why you would want to build them in a particular order, and just dealing with issues that come up as they come up, because I don't have any pressure to build this game. It's just a kind of experiment. So but yeah, I kind of like what we did today, and thank you for tolerating my weird fungus monsters and their horrible noises that they make. Because, but I'll just turn their rarity up next time, so I don't have to listen to that horrible sound quite as much. Thank you all for popping in, and yeah, see you around soon. I'm going to be doing those Q&A videos I've been uploading recently. Those like 10-minute ones where I answer one question. I've done a bunch of those in advance, so they'll be coming out every Monday and Friday, and I might even do them 3 times a week because they're just very quick to make and they slot in really nicely around the live stream. So if you have any questions that you think fit one of those 10-minute videos, then do send them in. Just easiest way is to respond to one of the posts on the homepage, and I would say the more specific the better, because I think that format works better when it feels like almost like an agony aunt, agony uncle type deal, where you tell me a very specific problem you're having with your game, rather than like a general thing you want to hear about. I think that works better for the format of this channel. But yeah, any questions that you have where you're just sort of mystified by something that you're trying to do in a game or anything like that, then send them in and I'll try and get them in the queue and record a response.